This is Experts Dispatch. My name is Talha Ibrahim, and with me today is Lieutenant General retired Naeem Khalid Lodhi. Mr. Lodhi has held a coveted position in the past as the former Defense Secretary of Pakistan. He has done his master's in international relations, strategic studies, and also in civil engineering. Apart from this, Mr. Naeem Khalid Lodhi has held the position of Corps Commander Bahawalpur. Today, the topic we'll be discussing is the American intervention in Afghanistan. It has been 17 years, and yet we still see today that the 43% of territory is controlled by Afghan Taliban. So, the search of peace has landed us in this discussion with Lieutenant General retired Naeem Khalid Lodhi. Over to you, sir. Sir, what do you think? Why the past peace efforts failed?
You are talking about the peace prospects and why it is not there for such a long time, why it has become elusive for all these years. I think I will try to give all the perspectives, because different people think different reasons for not having peace and not being peace in Afghanistan. The first perspective, it is, and I contribute to this one, that actually Americans have been changing their goalposts. Initially, we all know that they came for eradicating Al-Qaeda and to make sure that there is no threat to the mainland America from Afghanistan. That was and it was very clearly an enunciated aim. But later on, they started fighting with Taliban. They wanted to plonk a government of their own choice, and presently I think they don't want to go. And maybe, if I am allowed to say, they may not be even wanting peace, and I will tell you the reasons why I say so. This is one perspective. The other perspective, which Americans profess, and a part of the world also believes in that is that still Afghanistan is infested with such entities that can be a danger to the peace of the world, to the peace of the region, and the task has not yet finished. And Pakistan is abetting some of these such forces, and that is the reason that the combined forces of NATO and America, including America and Afghan forces, they have not been able to overcome all those things. So that is another perspective. But now coming back to the thing which I said, that I think they have changed their goalpost, and now their objectives are different. And let me count those objectives. Number one is circumvention of China to check their expansion. Number two is to make sure that the influence of Russia in Central Asian countries and in this region is kept in control. Number three is CPAC, which is in fact a corollary to the first two which I have just mentioned, because any access to warm waters through Pakistan, either for China or for Russia, is not acceptable to Americans. Third is they want to keep an eye on the developments in Iran, including their nuclear developments, and of course also to keep an eye on the nuclear assets of Pakistan. And these are their objectives, the current ones, in my opinion. And to achieve all this, they need to have a turmoil in the region. And why do I say that? Because if there is peace in Afghanistan, the first demand of the people of this region would be that what are Americans doing here? And they would ask them to leave. So they want to keep this region in such a shape or state that the people of Afghanistan feel that their presence is must, and the people of the region feel that they must remain here. So that is one of the reasons, one of the main reasons which I think, because of those 6 objectives which I just counted, that we have not been able to see peace in Afghanistan, I would say in the region. Right.
Sir, what do you consider in the future? What negotiating options that can be taken to restore peace in Afghanistan?
Right.
in your opinion, what such options can be undertaken?
Right. To address this question, I think first requirement is to find out who all would like to have peace in Afghanistan and who would not like to have peace in Afghanistan, and then we can say that which group to talk to and who should all be included in this peace. In my opinion, again, I'm just expressing my own opinion. I've already told you that Americans, they don't want peace in the region, and reasons I've given you. The Afghan government, the present unity government, they would not like to have peace in Afghanistan because the normal assessment is that is not my assessment. It is the assessment of all those who have an eye on this in this region, that the moment there is peace and other stakeholders are allowed to assert themselves in this region and to they are brought in the mainstream, the first thing that will happen is that this unity government will collapse. Somebody will ask them to leave, or they'll have to go. That is one. Warlords, narcotic and gun runners, there are plenty of them in that region, and actually they are being encouraged by certain forces so that they can keep providing some sustenance to certain entities. And you must also acknowledge this, that during the Taliban regime, this narcotics and gun business was nearly going down to zero, but now it is again it is a flourishing business. So these people, the warlords, the gun runners, the narcotic barons, they don't want peace in Afghanistan. So there are a number of stakeholders around. India would not like to have peace in Afghanistan because in case of peace, the Americans would leave, they will not get the requisite support, and they might feel some difficulty in staying in Afghanistan because they are doing a lot to Pakistan while staying in Afghanistan, so they would also not like to have peace. Now, who would like to have peace? I think the Afghan people, they are the ones who are most affected. They would like to have peace. Pakistan, because we understand very well that without peace in Afghanistan, we cannot have peace in Pakistan. China, Central Asian countries, because they have to pass through Afghanistan and use this corridor and go to the sea, Arabian Sea, and even Russia. So Iran would like to have peace because they won't like to have turmoil in Afghanistan and Pakistan and everywhere, because we surround that country. So in my opinion, if whenever in any peace process, if you try to include Americans and Afghan government, the present unity government, and some of the warlords in the shape of any political entity, they would never aspire for peace. They will keep on scuttling any peace processes which we try to forge. So the countries that would like peace, China, they said, China, Iran, Russia, Pakistan, Central Asian countries. This is the bloc and people of Afghanistan. So what I am saying is that many stakeholders in Afghanistan, naturally majority of them, they should join the peace talks. Pakistan is a must to join the peace talks. Iran, China. Russia may or may not. Central Asian countries may or may not. And just for the sake of optics, you may also ask Afghan government to join the peace talks. But in my opinion, Americans will have to be kept out or just kept as a facade for the peace talks. So this is my opinion, that unless you get together the people who really want peace, there will be no peace. So that is the future of peace which I think can happen in Afghanistan.
Sir, Pakistan has often posited through the official statements of our foreign office officials that for peace in Afghanistan, the process should be inclusive.
Yeah.
And the process should be Afghan owned and Afghan led. But the position, your position, specifically, you have said that for facade, we keep their government officials embedded within any negotiating
Right.
process.
Even Americans.
Even Americans.
Right.
So, do you really think that would work? Because accommodating Taliban would mean that accommodating the sentiments of a large Pashtun demographic
Right.
base, and this can in turn this ultimately strengthens the position of Taliban on the peace table. So, do you really think that excluding Afghan government from any such process
Right.
would work?
First of all, I believe in this thing that it should be all inclusive, because otherwise, also you see, in any negotiating situation or to put any situation right, there are those who want to put the situation right, and there are those who are the spoilers. So the spoilers and the builders, they need to sit together. Only then, actually, what do we mean by negotiation? It means that people, they have different objectives, they have different viewpoints, and then to sit down and negotiate and come to some mutually acceptable viewpoint. So I've just tried to list what, in my opinion, who all they want peace, or let us say more peace, and those who would like to have some turmoil or peace at their own terms. So let us put it this way, that their terms of peace and the terms of peace of the other parties may not be the same. So they have to sit together. I am agreeing to that. It has to be inclusive. The only problem is, once we say that it should be Afghan led and Afghan owned, if we look at the situation, Afghanistan at present is a fragmented country. So once we say Afghan, and Afghanistan is also very heavily influenced politically by Americans, even economically, militarily, and intelligence wise by Indians. So who is going to lead? Let us say, if we say Afghan led and Afghan owned, once they are not looking eye to eye to each other, so many fragmented portions of Afghanistan, so whom will we give the lead? Who is going to be the owner of that? So that is going to happen ultimately, but initially I think that is not possible, in my opinion. There is no one faction in Afghanistan which can lead the peace talks. There is no one faction in Afghanistan which can own the peace talks. So as I said, that is again my opinion, that if you leave it to Afghan government, they do not represent the total population of Afghanistan. As you have said yourself, there are other stakeholders also. So I think initially it will have to be facilitated by some outsiders, but slowly this thing will have to be given to Afghans. They must own it, they must lead it themselves, and that is only possible if all others later on, or in a graduated manner, they leave them at their own. You cannot ask Pakistan to leave the Afghanistan at its own, where the Americans are there, the Indians are there, the Iranians are there. They have come all the way from thousands of miles, and we being just next door neighbors, we are being asked again and again, please leave it to Afghans, let them own it, let them lead it. That is not possible. That is not practicable.
That is a very cogent perspective, sir. I believe the point that you have just elucidated, that the process should initially be led by someone else, and then gradually the ownership can be transferred. In comparison with the past wars that have been fought by the Americans, we have seen that the intervention in Afghanistan has proved to be very costly, and this invasion is also has also been termed as the longest continuation of the United States in any external territory. More than 2,400 troopers have been killed. More than $1 trillion has been spent. So why do you think that the United States of America failed in Afghanistan?
I think it's a very important question and very relevant, and for times to come, people must learn, and they will be exploring that why this happened. Because we are right into the situation, right in the arena. So probably whatever I say now may be incomplete, because whether they have succeeded or not succeeded, the final verdict has yet to come. But generally, this is expected that they have failed. Now, in my opinion, there are a number of reasons. some of them are historical, social, even geographical. So I'll put before you one by one. And first let us take history. On one side, there are people, the history says they have never lost. And whosoever came in their land, they either had to go or they were buried there. The other side, although mighty power, but they have lost wars, like Vietnam is one example and elsewhere also. So historically, the two sides which are pitched against each other, one has never lost a war or a campaign, the other side did lose. So this is the historical perspective. The social one. You know, in a tribal system, people are ready to sacrifice their last man till they attain their objective. In a democracy, you can only take some level of casualties. So this is again a big difference. That on one side, you have people who are ready to sacrifice everything, and on the other side, you have a capping level or some. Third thing is incentive to fight. Americans coming all the way from America and fighting in Afghanistan. Now I'm talking about the soldiers and the junior officers who are leading. Look at their incentive as compared to the incentives of those people who say, according to their own perception, and I also support them, that they are fighting to defend their country against a foreign aggressor. So there's a lot of difference between the two incentives. The geography. Afghanistan is a very rugged terrain, and it is very difficult to control the terrain and the people of Afghanistan. On one side, you have the people who know each and every inch of their land. On the other side, they have a lot of technology, but still their knowledge about the geography, and once we say geography, it is also sociology. They don't understand the people, the terrain, and the linkages and all those things. So I think these factors all put together, this is one way of looking at it. Secondly, I think if you give any army a clear-cut objective, they are likely to succeed. Initial objective, as I said, Americans wanted to get rid of Al-Qaeda and Osama bin Laden, and after that happened, then people were confused that why are we now sitting here. So they kept on changing their goalposts, which means that a mismatch between the military thinking and the political thinking. You all know, you must have all read that war actually is a continuation of policy. So if the policy instruments and the military instruments, they do not coincide, or there is not a proper overlap, there are always ingredients of defeat are sold there. Then whenever you want to invade a country, invade people, the ultimate aim should be to actually invade their minds and hearts, or to win their minds and hearts, if you don't want to use the bad word invade. I think the failure of Americans to, although they did profess that they will try to do that, and even the NATO forces, but they kept their focus on kinetics and not on the social factors, whether it was development or education or other social justice. And even if they would have thought of justice, they won't understand that what sort of justice a tribal society wants. So it was their lack of understanding, I would say, if I have to use one word, their social lack of understanding of this area, which has led to their defeat, which has yet to be completed. I think they are being defeated, they are not yet defeated, but looking at their attitude, even today, I am convinced that they will get comprehensively defeated in Afghanistan, and these are the factors which I have counted.
All these variables contribute to the fog of war. You have quoted Clausewitz by saying war is the continuation of politics by other means. Sir, do you foresee that the United States of America will withdraw from this region, the Asian region, from Afghanistan anytime soon, or will it continue for another, let's say, a decade?
Right. I listed 6 objectives of Americans, and if given a choice, they will not go, because some of those objectives are such they require a continuous presence in this area. That is why they have changed their strategy at the higher level, that now they want to get the help of India so that this area, this region can be policed or can be, you can say, kept under control with the help of another big partner. So their understanding would be that actually they will give slowly and steadily the control to Indians, and they would also like to stay here, and let us see how that works. So the simple question is that, simple answer is that if given a choice, they would not like to leave, and if they can have their way, they will not leave. But my own assessment is that one, India will not succeed in actually asserting their hegemony in this region because of factors like Pakistan, because we have some long standing history of animosity with them, and we have never given up. And now because both the countries, they have nuclear power, so anytime soon I don't think one can overtake the other one. So actually, first there will be a failure of the Indian hegemony, and followed by the total failure of Americans. Of course, it will depend that how the other stakeholders like China, like Russia, like Iran, like Central Asian countries, how do they look at this situation and what do they do about it. So I am of the opinion, because now very recently Americans have themselves said that it is all about competition of greatness. So competition, the competitors are here, the China, the Russia. So I think it is going to be a long haul. There will be some standoff for quite some time. This area is likely to remain under turmoil at least for another decade. That is my assessment. But slowly and gradually, this defeat of Americans in this region will keep going to the end state, which I said a total defeat, unless they mend their ways. If somebody more wise comes as their leader, I think if they start looking at the sociology of this region, and if they start understanding that the dynamics of Indo-Pak relations, and if they adjust their things accordingly, maybe they can stay for a longer time. Otherwise, with each passing year, they will be weaker. That is what I think.
So this session of experts dispatch concludes here with very insightful perceptions regarding the American failure in Afghanistan and the impediments in peace process. According to General Lodhi, there is the absence of clear-cut exit strategy, various political variables, socio-economic variables, and he also believes that the geography is a contributing factor. So we conclude this experts dispatch segment now.